Okay, welcome to another video. So what we're going to be doing today is taking a look at a new Ubuntu based distribution called CutefishOS. So this is going to be my very first time actually looking at the operating system itself, but the second time that we've taken a look at the desktop environment. So you might remember a little while ago when this was first being sort of teased and announced, Manjaro offered an edition featuring the Cutefish desktop, which is where I checked it out for the first time. However, was very new at the time and a lot of stuff didn't work, so it's currently still in beta, but I think there's been some updates and fixes since the last time I've checked it out, so it'll be interesting to see how it all works in its own operating system. So if we jump over onto the blog, we can check out some of the new features in CutefishOS. So they've got their own Cutefish repository and an alternative package manager for that repository, which is called Tap. So we'll check out how that works once we are fully installed. We then have the alternative settings center for advanced system settings, and they've updated Calamares with Qt shell. So Calamares is what it's going to use for the installation. They fix flags and the default Btrfs markup in automatic mode. Okay, cool. So it appears that they use Btrfs as the default file system, which I'm a massive fan of. And they've got the ZRAM by default with automatic configuration during system installation. So we'll check all that out once we are installed. And then we also have Pipewire configured by default to work correctly. And then we have some new options in the settings. So we have a new mouse theme, new mouse options. We have an added power management. Okay, cool. So we'll have a power and performance mode. So we'll check that out. New date and time page, new health items on the battery page, and added system effects option in the appearance page. Okay, that's quite cool as well. So Cutefish is a very kind of modern looking desktop environment with a lot of transparency and desktop effects. So that might help other people to sort of check it out on lower end hardware that can't quite manage with the system effects and all the transparency going on. So with the file manager, they've added the open with dialog and support picture thumbnail. And then we have the status bar with media control item in a status bar control window and increased stability. And for the desktop, they've improved the font rendering and added a lock screen interface. Okay, we'll check all that out as well. So the version that we're going to be checking out today is built on Ubuntu 21.04 and it's currently on version 0.4.2 beta developer edition. And also as a bit of what's new here, which is quite cool to see that they've implemented all of the Mauikit applications, which we first saw on Nitrux. So that's going to have sort of adaptive applications for different devices. So they've got pretty much the whole suite from what I can see here, like the file manager, the terminal station, and all of that good stuff. So the ISO is around about 1.9 GB in size, and I think all that's left for us to do is jump into the live environment and get this installed. And here we are in the live environment, a very nice and clean looking desktop environment, but we'll go through all of that once we are fully installed. So as per usual, we are going to be installing this natively, but for those of you who do like to skip the installation parts of these videos, there'll be a timestamp down below which will take you straight to the installed desktop. So it's opened up Calamares in kind of a full screen kind of view. So let's just double click on the top panel here and restore it to a smaller kind of size, and then we can start running through and get this all set up for our system. So first up for me, I'm going to change it from American to British English, which is just one below, and then go to the next step. So it's already got the correct region for me, which is Europe, London, and next. And it's also already got the correct keyboard layout. And let's just test out on our keyboard on the box below to make sure it's all working before we go to the next step. And here is where we can partition our drives and set them up for our installation. So we're going to mainly stick to the defaults here to see how it sets up the partition layout. But we might change something with the swap. So with the default selection of erase disk, it's nice to see that they have the swap configurable as well as the file system. And by default, it is on Btrfs. And also gives a selection of ext4, f2fs or xfs, or of course if you wanted to, you can go into manual partitioning and then create sort of different partitions with different file systems. But we're going to stick with Btrfs as it's my favorite file system. It's nice to see a lot of distributions now sort of implementing it as their default selection. So what we are going to do is drop down and go for swap with no hibernate. And that's going to give us 3 partitions, one for our EFI, one for our swap partition, and the rest is all assigned to your root partition with, of course, Btrfs as your default file system. And next. Okay, user account time. Let's just keep it super simple. We'll call this one Fishboy, type in our password. And I'd usually log in automatically without asking for a password, but I want to see what the login screen looks like when we first start up. So we'll leave that box unchecked for now. And then go to the summary, and as long as we've made no mistakes, we can press install, and I'll pause the video here and I'll come back once it's finished. So the installation has completed without any issues on my machine, so we can now reboot and check out our freshly installed CutefishOS. So we've just rebooted and we're using a standard grub screen here, but as you can see it's still currently listed under Ubuntu, so let's jump into it. Right, so we've just started up and here we are at the login screen. So it's not looking too bad there, it's quite nicely themed, but let's just jump straight into the desktop. Okay, here we go. So the first thing it's jumped up with is the update notifier, so let's just see exactly what we are going to be installing and upgrading. So it doesn't appear to be too much there, so I'm just going to press apply and pause the video while this is updating, and then we'll come back to it once that's finished. Okay, interestingly it's just said upgrade finished with some errors, failed to download packages, check your internet connection. Interesting, we are definitely connected to the internet via Ethernet, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. Again, this is all very much beta and new, so I wouldn't worry about little things like that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go and see if there's anything we can upgrade from in here. So we have this package here called Cutefish Full Upgrades. Let's go ahead and see if that works, or if we're just going to have to pretend that the internet's not working for now. Okay, so that appears to be working by updating the cache, so that should be all good. So I'll pause the video here, let it do its full upgrade, and then we'll come back to it once it's finished. Right, so it's gone ahead and upgraded us without any issues whatsoever, and it's also gone ahead and updated the kernel, which is now on version 5.11.0-34, and before that it was -31. So it is prompting us to do a reboot, so we'll do that now and then we can start taking a look around. And here we are. So I think before we go over the desktop environment and see what's changed for the default look and feel since the last time I checked it out, we'll quickly open up a terminal and check a few details out, and then we'll keep it moving. So the default terminal are very transparent out of the box, perhaps a little too transparent, at least for me. And now first up, we're just going to confirm that we are indeed using bash as our default shell. So we're going to type in shell. So as you can see there, we are indeed using bash, and we're now going to do the same for X11 or Wayland to see which one we have defaulted to. So we're going to go echo xdg session type, and then that is going to tell us that we are indeed using X11 and not Wayland. Now one more thing, we are going to type in lsblk and see if it has indeed set up the ZRAM, which it has indeed. So we have our 3 standard partitions right about here, and then we can see we have 4 separate entries for ZRAM, all at 1.7 GB in size. So with that out of the way, let's go over the default desktop's look and feel. Now I'm someone that this kind of workflow and layout really appeals to. I'm always someone that has a dock at the bottom and a panel at the top, or if I'm feeling a bit fancy I might chuck the panel on the left, but the panel always at the top, and I usually always implement a dock of some description. Now when I first checked out Cutefish over on Manjaro, the dock was kind of still very primitive. There wasn't a lot of options you could do. It looked very much the same as it did, but I don't remember us being able to do things like auto hide or intelligent hide at that current time, but I do believe that has now been implemented in CutefishOS, so we can check that out as well. So by default, you've got these nice rounded corners on the dock, and as you can see, it is slightly raised from the bottom edge of our screen, and it's got a nice bit of transparency there, and we'll check it out with the dark theme in just a moment as well. So here is your application launcher, and it's going to be a full screen application launcher at the very left hand side. And with a right click now on the actual icons for the applications themselves, we can either choose open or unpin. So if we go into our full screen application launcher, and let's just right click on anything here. So here we can do open center docks, that will pin that to your dock, and then we can also uninstall from here. I'm interested to see how that works, so we'll check that out towards the end of the video and see if it can actually just uninstall from our application launcher like so. Now let's go back into our dock and let's see if we can just drag and drop things to their own location. We can indeed. And let's see if it mimics that kind of Mac-like behavior when you drag an icon off. Will it just sort of remove it? No, so it's just going to pin it back. So of course to remove it you are just going to have to unpin. Now a right click on the desktop will give you the sort of standard stuff you'll find in a menu. On the right click for new folder, select all, open in terminal, change background and properties, and let's just see if we can indeed get full desktop icon support. So test, and there we go. So that's created a nice new desktop folder there right on our desktop. I quite like to have a very clean desktop, so I'm not someone that usually clutters my desktop with icons, but I know a lot of people still do like to have desktop icon support on their distributions. Now moving towards the top, when I first checked it out, again the panel didn't have a whole lot of features going for it, and I remember them sort of posting on their Twitter that they are going to be implementing a global menu, so we're going to see how that all works, but we'll start from the top right. So we have our clock. Clicking that at the moment appears to do nothing. We then have our power button, so that's then going to give you sort of all of your options for reboot, shutdown, etc. and it appears that we're missing one. Yeah, that should be our volume icon. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. We might do a login and log back out to see why our volume icon isn't appearing as it should. In fact, our entire volume is not there, so there should also be a volume slider there in this kind of little control center. So I think I will quickly investigate why that is, and then we'll come back to it. And we're back. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but a quick log out and log back in has fixed it. So now our volume icon is back there. And then as you can see, we have the volume slider and it's all sort of appearing as it should. So clicking the volume icon in your sort of top panel is then going to expose kind of like a little control center, if you like, which has got quick toggles for your Wi-Fi, dark mode, and we can also jump into the settings, and again we have another power button here, and then we have the full date. Now it's a very quick toggle just to change to the dark theme, so no waiting around, and it should work with an application open. You shouldn't need to close the application to repaint the window in the new theme, so let's give that a go. There you go, so a very nice smooth transition from the dark to light, light to dark theming. We'll check out their default file manager in a little moment, but again, all of their applications are going to have the very nice uniform look with the rounded corners. So now that our volume is back and working after that random little moment where we had to log in and log back out, again, very much new and beta, so little things like this are expected to happen. Let's see if these sort of shortcuts on the keyboard are working to control the volume. So we're going to leave the slider open so we can watch it. No, it doesn't appear to. Let's close it and then try that once more. And let's see if that volume has changed any position at all. No, so it's not working with my keyboard shortcuts for the actual volume control. Let's try and mute. No, so that's something that will need to be implemented in future releases. Okay. And then we have our current sort of keyboard layout, which for me is GB. So you have a little sort of Great Britain flag right there. Now, on this part of the screen, we should start to see some global menus appear with certain applications. I wouldn't imagine it'll work with all applications. There's some that just don't work very well with global menus, but the one that I would expect to work quite well would be their own in-house applications like their file manager. So as you can see, we have the application title here of file manager, and then we have some actual options here that would sort of be in the settings window itself, but now we can actually get it in the top left of our global menu. So we'll see what applications work and what don't, and I'm also going to install a couple myself to see if it sort of will pick it up properly and work with things that are a bit more involved, that have more settings. The one I usually test it with is Kdenlive, because there's a lot of settings in Kdenlive that having a global menu does help with. But as you can see there, we do have the file edit and help options that are present in the file manager working in our global menu. Okay, cool. Now what I also want to do is just make sure that we have got side-by-side snapping as well as four-way split. There we go, so we can tile windows in a four-way grid, or we can of course just do the side-by-side, and then dragging it back will then restore it to its sort of standard previous size. Now when you maximize an application, by default your dock is going to stay on the screen, and because of the sort of spacing around it and the rounded corners and all of that good stuff, you are going to have a lot of wasted screen space when you don't have the dock hide like that. So what we'll think we'll probably do is we'll now jump into the settings. So there's a new settings apparently, and I did see two settings wheels when I checked this out. So we have the settings manager, and then we have the settings. So I think it's the settings that we really want to jump into, which is the actual settings for the desktop. And here we go. So we have wireless LAN and Ethernet, and then we have our display options. So here we're currently not using multi-screen, so we've got that grayed out, but we've got the resolution, the refresh rate, and then we also have screen rotation. So if you're someone with a multi-monitor setup that has one in that kind of portrait kind of mode there, that's when you can sort of change that for that to make a bit more sense of those kind of screen orientations. We can then change our scaling from here as well. And now if we go into appearance, here is where we can change the theme as well as just jumping straight into the little toggle at the top here. So we have the light and dark, and we have this option here to dim the wallpaper and dark theme. I'm not someone who would use this personally. I think it looks a bit strange, but let's go into the dark theme and then just show you how that works. So that's just going to dim it a little bit, bring the contrast and brightness down and make it sort of look a bit more cohesive, at least with the dark theme. But for me, I don't think it quite looks right. And I think having the wallpaper as it's intended is much better, especially with the wallpaper selection. They have a very nice selection of wallpapers that complement the overall look and feel of the desktop. So then we also have system effects. So like I said in the beginning, if you've got a machine that just doesn't handle the system effects very well, if you press this toggle, that's going to go ahead and remove all of your rounded corners, so you can now see its complete straight edges and the transparency is gone, and that really does date the way the actual desktop looks. Let's go back into the normal mode, and there we go. And then just beneath that we have accent colors with a few to choose from here, and of course your accent colors are going to be things like this little toggle here, and your file manager, and sort of your side panel here, you can see it's blue in your title bar as well. And then if we just quickly change it to, let's say, the green, you can see that that's now changed, as well as the outline there. And then we also have the green in our file manager there as well. However, I quite like the blue, so we'll leave it on the blue there, but we have around 6 different accent colors to choose from out of the box. And now for fonts, for the general we're using Annie, and then for the fixed font we're using Deja Vu Sans Mono. We then have some pre-configured sizes for the actual fonting, so we have small, medium, large and huge. Hinting is on slight, but we can also again go none, slight, medium and full. And then we also have anti-aliasing enabled out of the box. Like I said, the wallpaper selection has been very nice since the first time I checked it out. There's not a whole lot there, but the ones that are there do fit really well with the overall theme and aesthetic of the desktop. And then we can also go by color as well, but let's leave it on the picture. So for the dock, here's where we're going to spend a little bit of time on and make sure it's all working with the sort of intelligent smart hide features of the dock at the bottom. So we have 3 different screen positions of which we can place the dock, with of course the only missing one being the top, as that's where your panel is going to occupy. But the default is bottom. Now we can chuck it on the left, which is probably what I'd switch between bottom or left depending on my mood. But if you're one of those people that likes it on the right, you can also chuck it there on the right as well. But we'll leave it on the bottom for now. And then we have some pre-configured sizes, which are small, medium, large and huge. Personally, I would like a bit more control over that, so sort of numbers that I could go to, but the small is just about right for what I would like it. I'm someone who does like quite a small dock with quite a few applications on it. That way it doesn't take up too much space, but I still have quite a lot of applications I use on a regular basis. Default being medium, and then we have large, and then we have huge. So we'll leave it on medium for the rest of the video, so it's easy to see what's going on as we're going through the desktop. And now for display modes, this is what I'm most sort of intrigued about, or sort of want to check out the most. So like we said, when you full screen or maximize an application, you're going to have a lot of wasted space there, which is where things like always hide and smart hide will come in handy. So the default is the always show, so no matter what's happening on your screen, if a window interacts with it, that is always going to be on top of those windows like so. And then we have always hide, which is basically the opposite of that. That's always going to be hidden from sort of your view until you move your mouse just below that, and then it will then sort of reappear and disappear. Now the pressure on that, actually no, the pressure on the sort of reveal sensitivity there is not too bad whatsoever. And then we have what would be my sort of preferred one, which is smart hide or intelli hide. So let's go ahead and enable smart hide. So now the dock, as long as nothing's interfering with it or you haven't got an application taking up full screen, that is always going to be on your screen until you interact with it with a window. Okay, interesting. So it's not interacting with windows like so. So I imagine that's only going to come into effect when you sort of maximize a window like so, and then your dock is going to disappear. And again, you can always get back to it by just moving your mouse to the bottom or left or right of your screen. Or if we just restore it to its normal size, your dock will then reappear. Now I'm going to leave it on smart hide, and now let's go through some of these other options in the settings itself. So we have the user, not too much to really look at there, quite self-explanatory. And then we have the mouse, and there are some new features here of the mouse. So we've got left hand, we have natural scrolling, we can change the pointer speed. And then we have the different theming for the light and dark themes, and the default theme it is using for the mouse cursor is Breeze and Breeze Light, so from KDE. And then we have date and time, we have language, we have battery, which we can't currently show because I'm on my laptop, not on my laptop. And then we have the power mode, which I'm quite intrigued to see how this works. So we're currently on the default of power save. So if we just go ahead and click this, we're probably going to need a sudo password for this because it's going to be changing. Let's go ahead and type in our password. Okay, it doesn't appear to want to do it. Okay, we are in a beta, so I'm not too concerned about that. But as you can see, Cutefish, CPU Freck. So if you've used sort of CPU Freck to change things like that before, you're going to know how that all works. But for the moment, at least on my machine, I can't go ahead and use it. In fact, let's try. Maybe it's the enter not quite liking it. Let's see if we can just select it with a mouse. No, okay, we won't worry about that for now. Then we'll leave that as is. And then the last page we have the about page, and as you can see we are on my distro testing system at the moment. So I think what we'll do is we'll close that. We'll spend a little bit of time now going over some of the default applications and take a bit of notice of what is going to be working with the global menu and what's not, and then we'll start playing around with a few different things and then sort of start to wrap things up. I do want to see how much RAM this uses on the fresh boot before I install anything of my own though. So in fact we'll do that now before we start taking a look around. So do we have HTOP installed? We don't, so we are going to install HTOP, as of course we are based on Ubuntu. We are going to be using apt for the sort of package management. Of course they do have their own package manager of tap, but I think that's only going to really be for sort of Cutefish stuff in the Cutefish repository, but we'll double check that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and type in sudo apt install HTOP. So I'm going to install HTOP, we'll do a reboot, see how much RAM we're using, and then we'll start playing around with the applications. And we're back from a fresh reboot, and as you can see from the output of HTOP there, the memory usage isn't really too bad, all things considered. So we're sitting at just over 700 MB, around about 723. And for a desktop distribution like itself, with a lot of sort of packages installed out of the box and desktop effects and transparency and all of that good stuff, 723 isn't really too bad when you consider all of those factors. So I think what we'll do is we'll close this off now, and let's have a look at the actual application set that we are going to be getting out of the box on CutefishOS, remembering that we have got a lot of the Mauikit suite of applications as well. So first up we have Discord. Now I am someone that does use Discord quite a lot, so I'm happy to see that, and if you want to join the Tyler's Tech Discord server, there'll be a link in the description below. We then have the settings manager, which of course is different from the settings. Let's just quickly open that up and see what we've got here. Okay, so we've got the configuration center where we can further change things for your appearance, brightness, date and time, file associations, monitor settings, locale, keyboard and mouse, etc. And let's just jump into the appearance quickly and see what that does. Okay, so that's going to open up the Qt appearance configuration. Okay, let's keep it moving. So then we have Etcher, which is a little GUI to sort of burn sort of ISOs onto USBs. If you don't want to use DD, you can use a nice little GUI there of Etcher. We have our Bluetooth manager. We then have the calculator, which is a very simple, sort of sleek, well-designed calculator that fits with the overall aesthetic of the desktop environment. We have no options there for the global menu. Let's keep it moving. We then have our file manager, which we've checked out a little bit, but for those of you that have never seen this file manager before, very simple file manager with your left sidebar for your favorite sort of places in your home folder, as well as your trash. And then we have our drives, and then we can also change the view from icons to list, and then we can also change the sort of the way it's sorted by name and all of that good stuff. Very simple file manager. And then we do have the full sort of path that we can type in the top bar there as well. Let's keep it moving. So that was the default file manager. We then have a screenshot tool, but I can also see at the bottom here we have Spectacle as well. So let's see what the screenshot tool does. Okay, so the screenshot tool is just a selector. So to select a current part of whatever you've got on your screen there, press that button there, and it should have saved that into our pictures folder, or failing that, it will be in our clipboard. So instead of going to our pictures, I think that's probably just gone ahead and just copied it into our clipboard. I'll confirm that towards the end of the video. So that's the default screenshot tool there. We then have the settings, which we've just gone over. We have their terminal, and then we have MPV media player, we have communicator, and then we have index. So this is one of the Mauikit applications. So there we go. Now index looks a whole lot better in my opinion when you're using a dark theme. So let me just quickly change it over. Oh, our volume icon has disappeared once more. There we go. So that's the default look that you are going to get with index. It's currently in kind of a listy kind of view. Let's go onto a grid. And there we go. Like I said, I've sort of displayed this quite a bit on my previous video of Nitrix if you want to learn a little bit more about that. And I'll also link the Mauikit sort of website in the description below for those of you that are more interested as well. So I guess you've got a choice of two file managers. If you sort of prefer one and don't like the other and want to slim things down, you can always sort of remove the one that you don't want to use. And then we have the Mauikit package manager, which is much like Synaptic. So it's a GUI place to manage all of your sort of package installations, removals, and all of that good stuff. And while we're here, we can also go to the bottom here and see how much packages we actually have installed out of the box. And we have quite a bit actually. So we have just short of 2,000 at 1,908. Now Mauikit you will find in a lot of Qt distributions, like I do believe Ubuntu still uses it as its default package manager as well. And as we can see, that is working with the full global menu support, so that's nice to see, and let's keep it moving. So then we have a Nota, again a Mauikit application, so a simple little sort of text editor if you like. And let's close that off and keep it moving. We then have Pix, again another Mauikit application, just a simple sort of picture gallery. Let's go ahead and change it back to the light theme, and there we go. And again, that would work with all the window snapping, and these applications are dynamic across different devices, so you can also get it for like your Android smartphone and all of that good stuff. We then have Shelf, another Mauikit application for sort of documents. I do believe it's got ebook support as well, so you've got all your documents and books in this application of Shelf. And then we have Station, again another Mauikit application which I've shown in previous videos that use Mauikit apps. And again, Station is one of those applications that does look a whole lot better with a dark theme like so. Let's close that off and keep it moving. We then have Wave, which is a music player, Clip for Clips, QPDF View. We have the desktop package of Telegram, and then we have the Qt version of Transmission via torrent files. We have the Cutefish full upgrade, which we used at the beginning of the video when the standard upgrade failed in the update notifier. And then we have a startup disk creator, so we also have Etcher as well as the startup disk creator. And then we have my favorite media player of all for video files of VLC. And as you can see there, VLC is one that has a lot of settings, and again that is working with the full global menu support. And let's just quickly go into the dark theme and see how that looks with the drop down there. Yeah, I like it, not too bad. So it is also transparent on the actual drop down menus there. Now let's close it back off and keep it moving. So that was VLC. So I'm happy to see that the global menu by and large does work with most of the applications that we've seen so far. We then have Arc, and then we have my favorite music player when we're using sort of Qt or KDE kind of distributions here. And it's one that I use quite a lot, especially on sort of KDE, and the most recent version of Manjaro, I do believe that their KDE version is now defaulted to Elisa as well. So a very capable, nice way to manage your music library with Elisa. Let's keep it moving. We then have Firefox as our default web browser. I'll be surprised if this has got any global menu support, because Firefox has always been a bit of a nightmare of global menus. And then as you can see there, they do not have global menu support for Firefox. It can be done, so I'd be intrigued to see if that does sort of make an appearance in future versions. But for now, no global menu support for Firefox. Let's keep it moving. We then have GwenView, and then we have, I do believe, is Komoso, which is a webcam viewer. I think that's what it is. Let's open it up. I do have a webcam plugged in, so we'll see what that's actually pointing. Oh, okay, I can see it, so let's have a look. There we go. It took a little while to start up there, but you can just about see the top of my head, a studio light and a deck there. There we go. Good stuff. Let's keep it moving. And then we have Kate, the text editor. Again, that should work with your full global menu support like so. Very nice. And now let's see what else we've got. So we're at the end here. We then have Spectacle and Scanlight. So I'm going to imagine for the screenshotting, for a full screenshot of your actual whole desktop, if you use the print screen key on your keyboard, that should default to Spectacle. Let's have a look. There we go. So print screen will default to Spectacle, and then you have the other screenshot tool to take snippets. And I'm going to imagine that will go straight into your clipboard, but again, I'll confirm that in just a moment. So I think what we should probably do is just have a quick look at their package manager. We won't spend a whole lot of time on it, because again, I don't think it's for anything other than Cutefish kind of stuff. But we're just going to type in tap and see what the usage is. So we can install packages with install, update, upgrade, search, and a list packages. So that's what we're going to do. So this is going to list installed packages. Let's see actually what packages have been installed from the tap package manager. So we're just going to type in tap list. Can we tab it? We can indeed. Yeah, so like I thought, all of the Cutefish kind of stuff appears it's going to be coming from here, and that's where it's going to be sort of maintained. So as you can see here, you've got your Cutefish launcher, Cutefish settings, etc. So then we have apt for sort of other sort of main sort of package applications from sort of the Ubuntu repositories as well. Okay, so that's tap. Let's just close that off and keep it moving. Now, what I am intrigued about, so we know that we've got the Muon package manager, but do we have anything like Snap or Flatpak support out of the box? Let's have a look. So we're going to open up our in fact, I'm going to stop using that terminal for the moment, and we're going to open up Station because it'll be a bit easier to see what's going on video. So first of all, we're going to check the Snap support. No Snap support out of the box. And now let's try Flatpak. And now no Flatpak support out of the box. Okay, so I wonder if they're going to integrate Flatpak or Snap in future versions as well. So I think what we're going to do then, we're going to install a few applications of our own and make sure that's all work with the theming and with the global menu. The main one being Kdenlive, because that does usually work very nicely with global menus. And we'll also install GIMP, and we'll use that to test out the screenshot and whether it's gone to the clipboard or not. So we're going to go sudo apt install, and let's go for Kdenlive, and let's go for GIMP. And I think that's all we're really going to need for this video. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. Our applications have been installed, and I also decided to install Timeshift as well. So as we're using Btrfs as the default file system, I'm going to assume the subvolumes are set up in the Ubuntu style. So Btrfs snapshot should work by default with Timeshift. I just wanted to confirm that, so we'll check that out as well. But first up, let's open up Kdenlive and see if it's working with the global menu without any problems. So it's just loading now. And there we go, full global menu support with Kdenlive, as one would expect. So global menu is pretty much working flawlessly, but again, there are going to be applications that just don't support global menus without a lot of sort of work, like Firefox. But for now, all is good. Now what I want to do is just quickly test out whether that is actually copying a screenshot into our clipboard. So we're going to take a little screenshot of any old random part on our desktop. We also are going to imagine that's a save as well. So that's automatically going to save that to your desktop. So I think I am right in imagining that it will take it of your actual sort of screenshot and then take it into your clipboard. So let's go ahead and just press the tick button, and now we're going to go into GIMP now. And now over Control V, let's see if it has actually copied that to our clipboard. It hasn't, so that doesn't appear to be set up to be working to copy into our clipboard, but we can press the sort of down arrow and then it will save it onto our desktop like so. Okay, not too much to worry about there. Now, last but not least, before we wrap things up, let's see if the subvolumes are set up properly for Timeshift and snapshots with Btrfs. So select a snapshot type, Btrfs, yes, yes, and finish. And now let's just quickly create one and make sure we've got no errors there. And there we go. So that's all working out of the box as well. And I think that is about where I'm going to wrap it up with my first look of CutefishOS. Now, there was just one more thing that I wanted to check out before we wrap things up, and that was the right click uninstall. Now, I don't hold out a lot of hope for this working yet, but let's give it a go. So let's give it a few seconds before I completely sort of wrap it up there. And no, I don't think that's going to work. So again, we are in beta, so things like that will need to be properly fleshed out before we get to a final release. But it's little things like that that will make it more welcoming to a new user to get sort of to grips with their system. And that is where I'm going to wrap up with my look at CutefishOS. Now, all in all, I'm quite happy with the direction that CutefishOS is going in, and I do actually think the desktop itself does have a lot of potential. Of course, as we're currently in beta, there are a lot of things that need to be implemented properly and new things that need to be implemented before it could be really recommended as a daily driver. But once that final release is out, I do think it's a distribution I'm going to end up being happy to recommend to people, especially those coming over from macOS and are more used to that way of working with things. Now, some of the things I'm happy about in its current state is the implementation of Btrfs. So that was all working with the snapshots in Timeshift. And I do like the fact that they are including the Mauikit suite of applications as well. So if you want to give this a go, I'll leave a link in the description below. Always do remember this is a beta and not to sort of run it on your main machines. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And if you've really enjoyed it, you can consider supporting me on Patreon or join the Discord. There's a link in the description below. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.